Hello, I am the cartoonist M. Rashid. I wanted to do this video to address the main topic thread that I was exploring with a series of cartoons I've done over the last year or so. These were involved the Fraternal Order of Police, the concept of the cop land, where the cops represent a major component of the anti-Black American prison industrial complex. So what was interesting to me in it's more than just, the parts that we usually talk about, like that represented by Michelle Alexander's work and like we saw in the 13th documentary by Ava. This part is more a portion of the unlimited Gibs that whites receive from the government. Like they're always getting free money and opportunities and just free this and just shower them with free stuff like all the time, while they're hypocritically talking trash about the Black Americans and saying we get all this free stuff that we don't get. They get unlimited everything. They, take these pockets of racketeering, like colluding criminal activity along with them that they like use and then slap each other on the wrist briefly to give the illusion that there's some kind of justice inside of their Whitopia. But they're, they take over and just give themselves free money and high five each other and talk trash on everybody else. It's their norm. But inside of the police force, I was looking at this there were a few things that clicked for me that made me see that they set themselves up as a protected class for those whites who want to participate in Copland. Obviously that kind of work isn't for everybody. Even the people who end up doing it, you could see is not everybody's cut out for that kind of work. Sometimes the narratives they tell themselves about us in order to justify the evils they do can often get the better of them, and you could see them freaking out and psycho. Meanwhile, you're the murderous. You're the one doing stuff, but you convinced yourself that I'm the monster that needs to be policed inside of this subculture you've created, because the Black American is the widget inside of a for-profit prison industry, so they create situations that enable them to justify going there and attacking, and they control every avenue of everything in that industry. So the justification isn't necessarily for the books. The justification is so they can pretend to be good people. It's for their souls, such as they are. So the justification and saying black on black crime and all their, political talking points and the thing, they created the situation. They set it up, Like you saw Gary Webb's work and with the CIA and Reagan administration and you saw what all of that represented. And when they say black on black crime and all that stuff, and you point out, you did this to me. You did this to me on purpose for self-serving, greedy reasons. The same reasons you exploit and plunder me. You artificially impoverish me to make me easier to prey upon. And then you created a narrative to justify what's okay to do it. It's based on lies and nonsense. And you do that all the time about everything. You're always doing it. But for this one here, it's interesting because, like, in my journey into studying this stuff, which, realistically began with the Obama winning the presidency that first term. And I bought into, the illusion of what they tried to paint in order to string me along in it, like a lot of people did. I wasn't as clever and savvy in it as Yvette and Tone were at the time. I didn't, I heard the argument that he wasn't Black American. This is not the Black American former slave class. This is a biracial Kenyan American pretending to be us. And I get offended. How dare you? This is the first Black. You're always trying to tear us down. I, like a lot of people did, I bought into the bamboozle and carried it for an embarrassing long time, until I finally saw what the data looked like and what actually happened and the gig economy thing and all that. Now I'm pissed, but you don't grow if you don't confront those things head on, so I'm forced to, that's why my little Afro activist character does not represent me, even though my ideological foes assume he is and even will insist he is. But I very carefully created the character that represents the uncompromising hardcore activist, and I caricature myself to, I'm not the fully know everything uncompromising person. I know I have a long way to go and a lot to study and yet to study to fill in the pieces of this puzzle of what history looked like. And it's important to courageously look truth in the face and accept it for what it is. You don't need to compromise truth. You need to look at it and take it on as is and add it to the narrative and see what the bigger picture looks like. It does nobody any good to hide from truth. Not if reality and justice and what's real are your goals. And that's what I want. I want for, my people especially, and I want for my nation. My ideological foe doesn't want that. He wants to hoard everything that's good just for himself. And in order to do so, he attacks and plunders me. So, the nature of the conflict, when he talks, all the bad things are my fault because I don't just let him do it without, pushing back against his evil. So when he talks, it's like racism is my fault because I won't shut up about it. Just let me be racist and be a diabolical monster in the earth and leave me alone. Or you're racist. That's his position. So the more of that I encounter, the less patient I get. And the more challenging it is to keep my temper in check, because it's easier to keep my temper in check holding the pen than it is when I'm in front of this camera. Holding the pen, calms me. Just let me rant off about the stuff, on camera. I get mad and I have no, all I could do is just project the emotion, the fury of it out. Whereas if I'm holding the pen and I'm feeling that, I have somewhere to, constructive to direct it, you know, or when I'm typing, it's the same. It's easier to keep my anger in check when I'm typing and when I'm drawing than it is sitting here with that light beaming at me. During the Mike Brown, Officer Darren Wilson time period around there, that was when I really got into it because I was having these active discussions and arguments and stuff online, and I was naively under the impression that everything could change for the better with the internet. Because now we can have these candid discussions in public with the people that we didn't really have those discussions with in the past with the previous technology. So I thought, as long as we are willing to have the discussion openly and courageously and candidly, with truth being the goal, that we might actively be able to cure racism in this lifetime, in this era. That was what I naively thought during that time. And then I encountered gaslighting and, people actively trying to protect the machine from anti-racism justice. And when I confronted that monster head on and I realized what I was really dealing with, and then I understood, now I've dedicated my work towards like decoding that kind of stuff. Like my direct foe is Lee Atwater and his like state rights thing. It's like, you're doing that, my job is to unravel it. And the cartoon is a powerful tool in that, People like to downplay it, that kind of stuff a lot, but I mentioned it in my official blog for my Weapon of the People Decoded project, that pages and pages of typing never moved the way the single cartoon image moves. You think it's like baby stuff and it's just a cartoon, but people don't treat it that way. People don't treat it that way at all. They'll dismiss pages of rhetoric and an essay, but a cartoon triggers the fuck out of people. And once I caught hold of that fact, of that truth, and I'm like, well, I happen to be a cartoonist. Well, okay, this is where I live. I have a duty to use my work in that way, which means I have a duty to uncompromisingly go after the truth in this particular subject matter, because this is my people. This is what we need. I need to live there. Now, as a genre fan and stuff, I would prefer to do the fun stuff, to be back in the superhero stuff and action stuff, and I would prefer that, to draw that stuff and draw that all day. But the more of the stuff I look into and see, and the more stuff that's unearthed, I feel guilty playing around with the stuff that the people who hoard all the wealth get to do. I can't pretend to be one of them and pretend there's no problems. They can do that all day because that's the Hall of Doom figure. I can afford to do that. I gotta spend this time like actually doing stuff, and, helping. So during that time period, while I was having these discussions, you know, when the Department of Justice was doing their investigation into Ferguson and the report that came and all of that during that time period, uh, I saw how white cops were treating black people. And to me, the obvious solution is get out of my neighborhood. If this is how you feel about my people, that they're not human, and all your empathy, sympathy, like get guy, like all your humanness you reserve only for your own white people, then that's where you need to be. Get out of my neighborhoods. Black cops only, like what Coleman Young did. Fuck out of Detroit. Trained up a whole new actual, protect and serve the people, your people group. And you can go where y'all live. The response to my suggestion was terror from white people. It wasn't just, anger, just the regular, ignorant racist rhetoric. No, it was a genuine panic fear that this would be a thing. And I was genuinely confused from it. I'm like, what's this reaction? I did not understand until recently when I started piecing this thing together, and why the next thing after that was the whenever there's an incident, Eric Garner died and got killed and that stuff. Whenever there's that type of incident, and then it's the backlash from it from the people. If the politicians at first do what Obama did and were like, "Well, it's stupid," if that's their first reaction publicly is to not be on the cop side, then the cops respond with the functional equivalent of the anti-Semite rhetoric. They respond like a civil rights protected class, and they come together and they get their politicians in line with boycotts and all kind. They respond like a protected class. That was weird. At first, I was thinking, well, this is like union shit. You know what I mean? But no, it was not. They're acting like a protected civil rights category. The rhetoric and stuff. And then when they started saying Blue Lives Matter, that cinched it. You showed your hand. Yes, you are. You set yourself up. So, the police force is a government protected class, a free, guaranteed government jobs program for a class of whites. That's what it is. It's not the keepers of the peace. This is free Gibs, free money, free equipment, like a free guaranteed job that if you want to do the work, this is a guaranteed check, a guaranteed benefits, guaranteed just for you in the package. But there's black cops. No, stop being stupid. These cops are exactly like the bulk of these people. They show up, they integrate into that culture, and they don't get to stay if they're projecting blackness, unquote. They have to be with the Brotherhood, and their rhetoric is the same as their white masters in there. And when it is not, then you have, backlash, and they end up committing suicide or something like that. They can't take it. You gotta be a very strong person to be among the fiend and maintain yourself. It's not easy. Humans aren't designed to be in that kind of situation. Their psyche is fragile when it comes to that kind of stuff. A very strong person indeed. You have to be. Remember when Dave Chappelle was on Inside the Actor Studio and he was talking about what it takes to make it in high level in the entertainment industry? It's like talking to James Lipton. These are not weak people. Mariah Carey and Martin Lawrence and the people who end up having like these crazy breakdowns on camera and stuff like that. What that stuff happened to them. He's like, these are not weak people that end up sitting across from you doing these interviews. These are very strong people, So what happened to them where they end up going through this, So if you're not already bent that way and you show up thinking being a cop is going to be what you thought in your head about, I'm a keeper of the peace and I'm going to protect people and I'm going to, fight the bad guys. If you show up thinking that, genuinely believing it, and then you end up in the Brotherhood and it's like, oh no, this is like old school, like 1870s, the worst people who were given a badge and legitimized. And I'm among them. And it's like you either go with this program or something's going to happen to you, boy. You ain't from around here. What you doing here? And then, the worst people were legitimized and given that star. So, in order to be okay, you have to leave who you are outside of that station and take on this whole new persona in order to be all right mentally. But there's nothing about that that's all right. And anybody can do it until they retire. It's a special kind of person. And anybody that can maintain themselves and still keep, I'm doing it for this, that's a strong person indeed, and I don't think it's a lot of them. So this police force thing that we have in the United States of America is not what it claims to be. What it is another arm of white people seeing what it is that the Black American former slave class should have and creating a version of it for themselves. And now there's all these fake protected classes that whites have given themselves and that they enjoy, while I am still locked out. So there's all these different ideas for how to create a protected class model. The blueprint for it was created by my leaders from the civil rights era. So our so-called allies saddled up to my activist leaders from the past, took that model from them, and made it their own. And that's what being a cop is. It's a free Gibs for whites guaranteed jobs program. That if you are bent to want to do that life of being a cop, then you have nothing to worry about. Try not to get shot. So I'm going to link the series of cartoons that I made from these concepts, in the description below, and you can check them out and follow the trail of thought that made them. Peace.